Hey everyone, Ace of Clay here, and welcome to another sculpting video. If you are new here, thanks for clicking. I hope you enjoy your stay, and in just one more click, you could be subscribed, just saying. Anyway, I am a self-taught sculptor. I sculpt pretty much everything out of polymer clay, and in today's video, we're making a monster. Sketchbook cover, because why have a boring sketchbook when you can have one that looks like it bites? For this project, we will be using one of these blank sketchbooks. You can get these on Amazon. I will put the link in the description box below. And yeah, we're gonna sculpt a creepy, toothy, drooly monster mouth on it. So if that sounds interesting to you, then let's get started. Alright, so like I said, we will be using one of these blank sketchbooks. The one I'm using is 5.5 by 8 inches, but you can use whatever size you want. Now we're just going to set that aside and we're going to start the teeth. I will be using Primo translucent polymer clay. And we're just going to take a little bit and knead the heck out of it, and then we're going to roll out some teeth. Like so. These are just going to be snakes of clay that taper at one end, and then we are going to make a bunch of them and then pre-bake them so that we can just poke them right into the clay when we're ready to add them in. And then as always, all of the materials and tools that I use in this video are listed in the description box below, along with my affiliate links if you want to purchase anything. Then while the teeth are pre-baking, we're just going to get started on the rest of the cover, and I will be using the sketchbook like this just so I can sculpt over the logo that's on the sketchbook. Sorry, pro art. Alright, now I just got this nice big sheet of clay through my pasta maker on the thickest setting. I added it to the sketchbook and I am just trimming it down so that it is the correct size. Now isn't that satisfying? Now when you get to the side with the spine, just make sure you trim enough off so that the clay isn't in the way when you open the sketchbook. And that's looking pretty good. Now let's gently take that off and start the mouth. But before we start the mouth, we need to mix some colors with colored clay. This is one of the very few times I will be using colored clay, and I'm using it for the inside of the mouth because once the teeth are in, there's no way a paintbrush is getting around them. And I'm just mixing red Sculpey 3 with some beige Super Sculpey. And that kind of looks like bacon after I ran it through my pasta maker. But there we go, there's a little medium color there, and then a really light color. This will be used for the gums and the tongue. And then I'm just adding a little bit of orange just to make it a little less pinky. And now our teeth are done and those are looking pretty good. We're just gonna set those aside for a second and roll out some of the darkest red for the mouth. I ran this through my pasta maker on the 4 setting, and now I'm just cutting out the mouth shape with my broken palette knife. Now we're just gonna add that to the cover like so, and then add a little bit of black in the middle to create the back of the throat. And then we are just going to take a red snake of clay to finish off the edges on that. And we're gonna make and attach a nice little uvula. I'm not really worried about how the inside of the mouth looks just because the teeth are gonna basically completely cover it. There's just gonna be little glimpses of it here and there, so I'm not too worried. But I'm just taking my large ball stylus there to create some ridges. Now we're gonna start adding the gums. This is just a semi-large snake of clay that tapers at each end that I'm adding to the top of the mouth and blending the top edge in with everything else. And then I'm going to repeat this process for the bottom gums. And then because I want to make sure that I see the gums after I add the lips, I'm just adding some more pink like that. That's looking pretty good. Not too bad. Now it's time for the lips. We are going to attach these just like we attached the gums. Then once the lips are on, we're just going to add it back to the sketchbook and trim it again just because it's kind of stretched out a little bit since we last trimmed it. So we're making sure it's the right size consistently and we're not putting anything too close to the edges. Now before we pop in the teeth, I'm just going in with my Explorer tool to detail the bottom lip. I'm just doing the bottom lip right now because the teeth on the top will overlap the lip a little bit, and this will just make sure that all the details are in before we stick on the teeth. Then once that's looking pretty good, we're going to add some bacon bond to the gums like so, top and bottom. Then I'm just gonna open things up just a little bit so I can make sure I can fit as many teeth in as possible. And we're gonna start poking in the teeth. It's super easy and super effective. Now once the majority of the teeth are in, I have decided that I want to give this thing a long, creepy tongue. So I'm just shaping out the tongue from some aluminum foil. Then I'm going to cover this in that pink gum color. Once the tongue is good to go, I'm just creating an indent for it with my large ball stylus. Then we're just going to add some bacon bond and stick it on like this. And then to make room for the tongue, I did have to remove some teeth, so we're just gonna pop those back in right now. And then to texture the tongue, we're gonna use these old ruined paintbrushes to create this nice creepy tongue texture. This is another instance of something being super easy and super effective. Now to really make this look like a tongue, we're just gonna go in with our toothbrush here and just dab it all over the place. Wow, check it out. Now we're gonna further detail the tongue using our Explorer tool to draw that nice little line down the middle. Then we are going to follow this with our pen tool and wedge color shaper. That's looking pretty good. I ain't mad. Now we're ready to finish off the teeth. And then just to enhance the creep factor of this thing, I'm doubling up some teeth, like so. There we go, our teeth are in. Now we're just gonna take some bacon bond to fill in any spaces between the teeth and the gums. And then this is a good point to add it back to the sketchbook and trim it. I'm gonna finish off those gaps here really quick, and then we are going to add another piece of skin on top of the top lip just to make it creepier looking. And then we're just gonna add some more clay to build it up more. And I'm really pushing the limits on how much clay you can add to a piece without bulking it with foil, but you know what? You miss 100% of the chances you don't take. Now I'm just going in with my Explorer tool to detail the top lip area. And I'm just adding a bunch of wrinkles, crisscrossing them, going with the lines that are already there, and just making it as detailed and creepy as possible. And then as another added detail, we're just giving him a nice mole on the side here. Once that's done, it's time to texture the rest of the skin. To get me started, I'm just pressing in a piece of aluminum foil to give me a base texture that I can work with. Then once I'm done with my aluminum foil, I'm just going to create crisscrossing lines with my Explorer tool to create that sort of realistic human skin texture. And then in between the lines, I am adding some clay softener to just kind of smooth everything over. And now it's time for the top. Then after one last brushing of clay softener, we're just going to add it to the book and trim it again. And it's ready for its first bake. And once it's baked and completely cooled down, this is what we got. Let me adjust the light so you can see the texture a little bit better. Not bad. Alright, now it's time for paint. All of the paints that I use in this video are Folk Art brand acrylics. And I just created this dark brown color that I mixed with water to create this wash that I'm adding, and I'm wiping off the excess with paper towel. I'm going to go over the entire surface with this effect. And that's looking pretty good for the first layer. Let's move on. I'm just adding some regular brown that has not been darkened to all of the crevices, like so, and this is also a wash. I'm just rubbing off the excess with my fingertips, just blending it, getting it to a point that I like. Now with some Imperial Red that I tinted with a little bit of green and pure black, I'm just adding this to the tongue, and this is also a wash, so it is watered down, and I'm rubbing off the excess with my paper towel. Then we're just going into that line with some even darker red, like so, getting behind the teeth a little bit. Then while the tongue's drying, we're just going to go in and do the same thing to the gums, trying to be careful not to get any paint on the teeth. Now I just added a little bit of reddish brown to the lips, just to get some blood flowing in this guy, getting a little texture there. Then I'm going in with some watered down dark blue into certain areas just to give it a little more dimension. Not bad. Let's keep going. I'm just adding some light red. This is Imperial Red that I tinted with a little bit of warm white and orange to get this sort of light pink color that I'm dry brushing on the surface of the tongue and some other areas like that. And then to remove the paint that I got on the teeth, I'm just going in with some nail polish remover. This kind of worked. It was better than nothing, but I'm not too worried about it. Now I'm just going in with some dark brown to add some more dimension to the teeth, making them darker at the base, like so. Now we're just gonna go in and do a couple touch-ups, add a couple more details here and there. And then to give this a nice semi-satin finish, just to make the skin look kind of dewy, I guess, we're gonna go in with some matte varnish. Not bad, the skin's looking pretty good. Alright, now for the last step, the drool. To make this, we're using resin. I'm placing it on top of an old measuring cup I had just so any resin drips off and doesn't puddle around the edges. Now we're mixing our resin. I'm using Amazing Clear Cast. It's a 2-part resin where you mix equal parts resin and hardener. Then I am applying this to the tongue using a disposable glue brush. Being careful not to drip it everywhere. Not that it really matters, but I want to control where the drips are. And this was my favorite step just because it really finishes things off. And now for the teeth. Now that we have our initial coat of resin where we want it, I'm just going to let the resin sit out for a couple minutes just so it thickens a little bit, because then I'm going to go in and add some drips. And that consistency's pretty good. Just going to take that on the tip of my brush, then add a glob of it on the bottom lip, and then just let it sort of naturally drip down. Add a little bit more. There we go. Now I'm just going to go in and add as many drips as I want. Then once all the drips are on, we're just going to wait 24 hours for the resin to dry. And yes, you can use UV resin if you'd like. Then 24 hours later, when everything's good to go, we're just going to attach the mouth to the book with some E6000 industrial adhesive. Make sure to take all necessary precautions when you use this stuff. Now we're just going to add some of the glue to the back of the mouth and the front of the sketchbook. And then after waiting a couple seconds for the glue to get tackier, we're gonna put everything together. And at first, this glue is pretty forgiving. You're able to move everything around a little bit to get it positioned correctly, and then if you have any glue leaking out, you can just pull it off after it's completely dry. Now we're going to use some chip bag clips to secure the mouth to the cover, make sure everything's nice and tight, and then according to the instructions, we're going to let this cure for 24 hours. And it's done! Our creepy monster mouth sketchbook cover is complete. Let me know what you think in the comments. And then if you make this or use any of the tips and techniques that I used in this video on your own projects, share them to Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter with the hashtag AceOfClay so I can check them out. That's a wrap. I really hope you like our creepy, toothy, drooly monster sketchbook cover. I think it came out pretty cool. Probably could have added a couple more details up here and down here, but whatever. Good enough. You can do that if you decide to make it yourself. As always, thank you so much for watching and being here. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and then follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at AceOfClay, and I will see you in the next one.